Quotes by Sigmund Freud. Out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. People do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Whoever loves becomes humble. Those who love have, so to speak, pawned a part of their narcissism. Beauty has no obvious use, nor is there any clear cultural necessity for it. Yet civilization could not do without it. Love and work are the cornerstones of our humanness. He does not believe that does not live according to his belief. How bold one gets when one is sure of being loved. A certain degree of neurosis is of inestimable value as a drive, especially to a psychologist. The behavior of a human being in sexual matters is often a prototype for the whole of his other modes of reaction in life. The liberty of the individual is no gift of civilization. It was greatest before there was any civilization. A woman should soften, but not weaken a man. Just as no one can be forced into belief, so no one can be forced into unbelief. When a love relationship is at its height, there is no room left for any interest in the environment. A pair of lovers are sufficient to themselves. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. Where it is, there shall ego be. Neurosis is the inability to tolerate ambiguity. The virtuous man contents himself with dreaming that which the wicked man does in actual life. No, our science is no illusion, but an illusion it would be to suppose that what science cannot give us, we can get elsewhere. All family life is organized around the most damaged person in it. The ego is not master in its own house. People are more moral than they think, and far more immoral than they can imagine. The first requisite of civilization is that of justice. Love in the form of longing and deprivation lowers the self-regard. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Poets are masters of us ordinary men in knowledge of the mind because they drink at streams which we have not yet made accessible to science. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. In the small matters, trust the mind, in the large ones, the heart. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. The mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. A man who has been the indisputable favorite of his mother keeps for life the feeling of a conqueror. When inspiration does not come to me, I go halfway to meet it. The greatest show in the universe begins when you discover your mind. The only person with whom you have to compare yourself is you in the past. The creative writer does the same as the child at play. He creates a world of fantasy, which he takes very seriously. Conservatism, however, is too often a welcome excuse for lazy minds, loath to adapt themselves to fast-changing conditions. Men are strong so long as they represent a strong idea, they become powerless when they oppose it. We have learned, for example, that the more virtuous a man is, the more severe is his superego, and that he blames himself for misfortunes for which he is clearly not responsible. Everywhere I go, I find a poet has been there before me. He that has eyes to see and ears to hear may convince himself that no mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips. Betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. It is a predisposition of human nature to consider an unpleasant idea untrue, and then it is easy to find arguments against it. Civilized society is perpetually menaced with disintegration through this primary hostility of men towards one another. People can defend themselves against the attacks of others, but they are defenseless against the praise of others. The dream is the liberation of the spirit from the pressure of external nature, a detachment of the soul from the fetters of matter. Time spent with cats is never wasted. In mourning, it is the world which has become poor and empty. In melancholia, it is the ego itself. For there is a way back from imagination to reality, and that is art. The more perfect a person is on the outside, the more demons they have on the inside. Who is Sigmund Freud? Sigismund Freud is an Austrian neurologist who is the founder of the science of psychoanalysis, one of the most important sub-branches of psychology. He was born on May 6, 1856, in the Moravia region, which is now within the borders of the Czech Republic, but was part of the Austrian Empire at the time. He died on September 23, 1939, in London, England, at the age of 83. He graduated from the University of Vienna in Vienna, the capital of Austria, and worked there. What is psychoanalysis? Psychoanalysis is a clinical method used to treat psychopathological cases through dialogue between the patient and the psychoanalyst. Psychoanalysis tries to reveal the connections between patients' mental processes and unconscious elements. According to Freud, unconsciousness occurs not on the experiences themselves, but on their memories. However, when these desires are satisfied, feelings of sadness and regret are avoided. In accordance with her principles, Freud did not leave any private documents, memoirs or letters, and burned them all. For this reason, the first and most comprehensive information about Freud was first revealed in the 3-volume book The Life and Works of Sigmund Freud by her close friend, British psychiatrist Ernest Jones. The destructions that Freud put forward psychoanalytically are birth, sexuality, castration, Oedipus complex, narcissism, mourning, like the death drive. It will take many forms and be called by various names. Freud defines learning and teaching as mostly help, and he found it much more enjoyable than treating. His favorite principle was to turn necessity into pleasure. Some works of Sigmund Freud: Studies on Hysteria, The Interpretation of Dreams, The Psychopathology of Everyday Life, 3 essays on the theory of sexuality, Jokes and their relation to the unconscious, Totem and Taboo, on narcissism, Introduction to Psychoanalysis, Beyond the Pleasure Principle, The Future of an Illusion, Civilization and its Discontents, Moses and Monotheism. If you liked our video, please don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Quotes by Sigmund Freud.